Hello, my fellow speakers. This is Brian, the speaker for the dead. Welcome to the first Words with the Speaker. I typed it in wrong earlier. That I actually said words from the speaker, like I was going to be enlightening everybody with my majesty and my amazingness. And anyway, so I realized I needed to change that. But this is my first ever live stream. Well, actually, I've done live streams in the past, but this is my first, what will become a normal event for live streams. So I'm looking forward to this. I hope that you all are too. It doesn't look like anybody's in here yet, and that's okay. We hope more people will be coming in, and if not, you can always go back and check out this on the replay. It's going to be kind of a serious subject tonight, which may have kind of put some people off. Oh, more reality. Why would I want to go and see that? And I can understand that. It's very difficult to deal with reality every minute of your life and then, go watch something based on the horrible things that are happening in your life as well. But it's an important thing that we talk about this stuff. And my channel this is really going to be about fun stuff, hard stuff, political stuff, entertainment, music. It's just going to go wherever I feel like we need to go to make things better, to kind of bring stuff into our lives that we can talk about, and that at the end of the day we come away with a positive reaction. And really, that's my main focus for this, is that I want this to have a positive outcome. No matter what we're talking about, no matter what's going on, I want the subjects to end on a positive note. I want to, even though they might be difficult subjects sometimes and unpopular and unpleasant subjects, I want them to end up being positive. I want to find maybe what we think a solution would be, or something, what we want. What do we want to see different? What do we want to see better? I don't want to leave this on I hate everything and I'm going to destroy the world kind of a note. So tonight we're going to be talking about police reform. Right? Police reform. Everybody's mad and throwing stuff around right now about police reform. But I think it's an important subject to discuss, just not really in the way it's being discussed by everybody else. Everybody else is talking about police reform like, oh, the pigs, down with the pigs, defund the police, destroy everything. So, hey, we got Xenocide in here today, and the subject is police reform. So we're going to be talking about that for the hour that we're going to be together today, and what we think are good solutions, things that will help police and help us as a society, and things that won't. I mean, a lot of the ideas I'm hearing thrown out by the mobs and by people that are going nuts they're non-starters for me. It's like, that's not even an option. Like the defund the police movement, or the disband the police movement, or anything that kind of goes along that line of shutting down the police. Okay. Police are a necessary function of government. It is one of the few things outlined in the Constitution that our government is actually supposed to be doing. It is actually supposed to be providing those things, providing for our safety, our security, and our national defense. Those are main things outlined in the Constitution that says this is what we're supposed to do. This is what government is here for. And the problem is that government has gotten too involved in every aspect of our lives that it does not need to be involved in. That's become, I think, what the problem is. So what I wanted to kind of jump off here and talk about, and see if you guys feel the same, or what you think Sunnyside says, support an officer. All these movements fail when someone needs help. Not sure I quite understand that comment, but that might just be me. I just got back from camping, so my brain's a little slower because it's plugged up with marshmallows and things that are bad for me. So, but yeah, I think I get what he's saying here is that yeah, everybody loves those ideas till there's nobody around to help them when they make the phone call because their houses are being broken into. I think that's what he's getting with there with that comment. And that's the thing. So I want to give you guys a personal anecdote, personal experience for the difference between what I see as good policing versus bad policing with something that actually happened to me in my life. Now, I grew up in a small rural community, and we had basically one sheriff's deputy that spent most of his time out in our area. Now, I won't name this man because I don't want to, you know, draw attention to him specifically, but just the kind of officer he was. So this experience happened when I was, probably 16, 17 years old. Me and a friend of mine, we were headed to a high school dance. The high school was about 20 miles away from where we lived at the time. And yeah, if you're in trouble, who are you going to call for help? The local drug lord? Ooh. He might help you if you buy some stuff from him. It's not a good idea. So yeah, but anyway, my buddy and I had drove to his house, and then he wanted to drive because his parents had just got this new Cadillac, and he just thought it was the coolest thing ever. So we jump in his mom and dad's caddy, and we head to the dance. And he's flooring it. He's giving it the business, trying to show off this car, just like kids do when they get in their parents' car. And we went down, jumped on this other highway that takes us towards the small town where our high school was. And then there was kind of a Y junction where we came onto another highway. So there's basically 3 different highways to get to where our high school was. And the second highway of those, you kind of come around a bend, and then it comes to a T. And you've got like a long line of sight both directions. There's not a lot in the way except maybe a sign for a government lab that's near where I live. And he looked that way, and then he looked the other way, and there was probably a car coming maybe half mile, maybe a little further up the road. And so he turned, and he didn't even slow down for the stop sign. We probably took that stop sign and that T going about 35, 40 miles an hour, with 2 wheels and stuff. But it's a big old caddy, so it can handle it. It just leans into it. The old Cadillac horns. It's like you're actually tugging on a boat string. Hey, we got a Odega Outlaw in here. Welcome, glad to see you. So to fill you in, I'm recounting a police story that happened to me. Anyway, so we get to this T junction, below the stop sign. Well, the car that was coming up the road about half a mile was our local county sheriff. Well, his lights came on, and my buddy, we were like, oh yeah, he's got us. And so we pull off into this driveway of some people that we knew, and this deputy comes around and gets behind us and comes up to the car, asks who we are, where we're going, asks for license, registration. And then he's like, okay, well, I know your mom and dad, and I know your mom and dad, talking to me. And he's just looking at us, and he says, I'm not going to cite you. I'm not going to, anything. I'm just going to give you a verbal warning. And, and we blew a stop sign doing 35, 40 miles an hour. He had every right to cite my buddy for driving the way he had been driving. And, he just looked at us and said, guys, I just want to share this with you. I have had to be at too many accident scenes. I have seen too many young men and women like you whose bodies are broken and mangled, that have been thrown from vehicles or hit because they thought they could make, make a corner in front of another car or whatever. And he says, and I've had to be the one to go tell their parents that their kids are never coming home. And he says, I don't want that to be you guys. I do not want to have to do that for you. I want you to be able to get where you're going. You guys are going to a dance tonight. I want you to get there safely, there and home safely. And he said, just stop at the stop signs, slow down, take her easy, and get home safe tonight. Okay, guys? And that was it. And troublemaker. I was at moments. I was a pretty mild-mannered kid, but when you get with your buddies, all your brain cells just kind of leak out your ear and you forget who you are. And anyway, but I remember thinking in that moment, now we got away with it. We totally awesome. The way he talked to us, I knew he cared. He gave a dang about us. He knew our folks. He knew our families. He knew, our brothers and sisters and stuff. And it was important to him that we actually get home safe. You could tell he was there to be concerned. He was not there to write tickets. He was not there he was there to serve and protect. Everything that a police officer is supposed to do in their line of work and their duty. And I remember walking away from that just thinking, having so much respect for police officers and what police officers did. They have a really tough job. They really do. And in a lot of ways, it's a very thankless job. But this whole thing of defund the police, disband the police, blah, blah, blah. I have one question for those people. Who's going to replace them? The mobs? The people calling for this stuff? Are they going to be the ones that come to my house to save me from the robbers, which here lately have been the exact same people calling for the disbanding of the police or the defunding of the police? The only people who would be excited about the defund the police movement are the criminals, because law-abiding citizens don't need to defund the police because they're not the ones that have bad interactions with the police. It's always these fools and idiots who just think, I can do whatever I want. I don't, the rules don't apply to me. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people out there who are living in that world of the rules don't apply to me. If rules are for other people, lesser mortals than me. So I would like to ask you guys in the chat, and there's only a couple of you, but I am very grateful for everybody who ever comes to view a video, watch a live stream, and I want to thank you guys for being here tonight. This is my first ever actual planned ideaed actual live stream, and they're going to be a regular thing every Sunday night here at 5 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Just add hours depending on where you are, because I think we need to talk about these things, the more serious things and the fun things. And I'll let you know each week what we're going to be talking about the next week, unless something comes up which is like pulls everybody's attention towards one thing and I feel like we need to talk about it. But what do you guys think needs to happen with police reform? What would you say with with the interactions you've had with the police? What would you say is the biggest thing that causes problems for police and their interaction with just average people, not the criminals, not the Michael Browns, not the people who are getting shot and stuff like that, because the statistics don't bear up what Black Lives Matter is saying. More white people get killed by cops than black people get killed by cops, by quite large margins. And it's anytime you look into the deep statistics of what is actually going on behind the scenes, you realize very quickly that this is all just smoke and mirrors. It's just all for political outcomes. It has nothing to do with criminals. It has nothing to do with anything other than power, political prestige, and not fixing any problems. They don't want to fix problems. They just want to rant and rave about problems. Because let's just say for a moment, we did exactly what they want, and we disband the police or we defund the police by 50% across the board all over the country. Do you think these people would be satisfied? I mean, throw a one in the chat if you think these guys would be satisfied with giving in to what they want, because I don't. I don't think for 1 minute they would be satisfied. They would just move to the next thing, because they're children. They're children that are saying, "Mommy, I want candy. Mommy, I want candy. Mommy, I want candy." And then when you give them candy, it's, "Well, I want some cookies now. Where's my ice cream?" They're just spoiled children. And it's sad. It is sad that that's where we are in our country, that the spoiled children, or another way of saying it that you hear a lot from people, is that the inmates are running the asylum, and that the only people that are being picked up by the media, the only ones that are being heard or listened to, are the ones that are screaming like lunatics. I mean, that is just sad that you and I, as regular citizens, don't have the say, mainly most of the time because we don't have the time. I know I don't. I do not have the time to go out and protest and march and do all these things, because I actually have a life and I'm busy. Just like today, we just got home from a camp out where we spent 2 days up in the wilderness with my family, and it was great. So Adega says, "I say we need to increase their pay greatly, increase responsibilities of the police, and only recruit the very best. The pay will draw more. The requirements will bring better cops." Amen. That is an excellent point. I think also Trump started a good thing when he went in and started deregulating a lot of stuff. I think they need to make officers less responsible for all of these idiotic little teeny laws, like seatbelt laws. And cops are being forced to be involved in situations where the police have no business being involved. And people misunderstand the idea of the police. They think that you hear those news stories where some lady or some guy called 911 because McDonald's ran out of chicken nuggets. And you just sit there going, what? And I think in every single one of those cases, they either need to bring charges against those people for misuse of police time. And I know in the one case they actually did. But they need to give the police the opportunity to just nip that kind of thing right in the bud and just end it. Like, no, you do not call police for chicken nuggets. You do not call police because your neighbor's dog barked twice. We need to realize what the police are actually there for and stop making them regulation keepers. They're not supposed to be enforcers. They're not supposed to be in our lives every minute of every hour of every day. Not at all. That is not what the police were ever intended to be. They were intended to protect. And here's the big thing. Any law that goes above and beyond protecting your rights from me and my rights from you is a bad law, because that's all the law should be. The law is only meant to protect us from each other. It is not meant to give one person rights over another person or constrain freedoms. That's not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to outline freedoms and define them so nobody gets stepped on. Nobody gets hurt more than somebody else. That we are all protected equally. It's like the statue of Justice has a woman holding scales and is blind. Her eyes are covered, and I can't remember what she holds in the other hand, but it's because justice is supposed to treat everyone equally, not treat you differently if you're black or you're white or you're American Indian or you're whatever. Justice is blind, and that's how the cops should be able to enforce the law blindly. And it's hard because they're out there every day dealing with stuff that we just don't even understand, I think. Xenocide says it might help if every time one of these incidents happens, someone wasn't breaking the law. Yeah. So I'm going to give you another example. It's going to be personal anecdote day here on the speaker's channel. because just this last week, I got pulled over. What was I doing? Was I speeding? Was I smoking marijuana while diving across the thing, while texting somebody, while eating a hamburger? No. I didn't wear my seatbelt. I was driving a little truck from one facility of where I work to the other facility, a distance of approximately 5 miles at the most. And I got pulled over. And the cop was so ignorant. It's if you, for those of you who aren't truck drivers, which is probably everybody, there was a big DOT push last week all across the United States. Every year they do a week where it's just DOT cops as far as the eye can see. They're pulling over trucks for every little thing. They're doing inspections. They're basically the Gestapo week for everyone who drives a truck. It's awful to be a truck driver during that week because they just harass you. And that's basically what this was. I drove by, didn't have my seatbelt on because I wasn't going that far. And about the max speed you can get in those 5 miles is 35 miles an hour. Now I realize it's a law and I should have put it on. But I'm in and out of the truck all day long. And I just forgot that time. So I drove past this guy. I get over the overpass, pull off a little dirt because he's right behind me. And he pulls up next to me and he walks up and he was so ignorant. It was like having the worst version of your dad, who isn't your dad, come up and try and berate you. And this man comes up and he says, "Do you know I stopped you?" And I'm like, "No." I said no. Because I wasn't speeding. I wasn't doing anything else wrong. The insurance, licensing, everything on the truck is perfect. And he's just like, "Well, is there a reason why you're not wearing your belt?" I said, "No, I just forgot. I guess I didn't even think about it. I was just coming a short distance." "Well, I could cite you for $204 for not wearing your seatbelt. Do you think it's important now?" Serious. Dead. I wished I'd had a body cam on and was recording the guy because he was so demeaning and just talking down to me like I was 7. And I'm like, "Yeah." And then he says, "Say yes." And I'm like, yeah, I should have. Sorry. I just didn't, I didn't realize I was endangering all of the people around me with my seatbelt infraction. And then he's like, "Well, I'm not going to cite you today, but I could cite you for $204. But I'm gonna do an inspection on you anyway." So it was just all a pretense. He was just looking for any reason to pull the truck over to prove that he'd done his job for that day. That's another thing that is wrong with how we deal with police officers and how police officers are told to do their job. You go to one cop and he'll tell you, "No, we don't have quotas." You go to another cop, if you're buddies with them, and they'll absolutely tell you, "Absolutely, there are quotas. We have to give so many tickets out in a month. And if it gets toward the end of the month, we've got to just start finding a reason to give people tickets." Imagine that. Imagine that. Your job is to serve and protect, but the people above you in the state are going, "We need that revenue. We need more money in the state coffers because we're going to have a shortfall this year. We need you guys to be giving out at least 50 to 60 tickets a month." For minor infractions, little things, and then you sit there and wonder why people don't have faith in the police. Because as a truck driver, and I'm out on the road, I watch people do some of the craziest, most insane, lunatic things when they are driving that you've ever seen people do. Passing on double yellows, missing cars by inches, passing you on the emergency lanes. I've had people do that because I'm a truck and I'm just taking way too long. And it's crazy. I'm just like, but you'll see the cop pull somebody over for going 3 miles an hour over the speed limit. Why don't we have faith in cops? Because they're being, some of it's their fault, but some of it's what they're being told they have to do. The expectations for them as a police officer is bad. It's unrealistic. It's not what they're supposed to be doing. they're out there just raising people's insurance rates so the state can get extra money. Like, sorry. My dog went camping with us and he got muddy and we had to give him a bath, and now he's in his kennel and he's teed off about it. So Adega just said, lows of self-injustice should be done away with. Laws of self-injustice. Oh, I think he means laws there. Laws of self-injury should be done away with. Bikes with helmets, seatbelts, etc. If you aren't infringing on someone else's safety, there should be no law. Amen, brother. Amen. Exactly. Cops are being asked. I mean, when I grew up, I was born in the 70s. More anecdotal stories. Hold on for just a minute. I apologize. Sorry about that. When I grew up in the 70s, we grew up riding around all summer in the back of a pickup truck. We went to the swimming holes, into the canals where we were going to swim or whatever. We in the back of a pickup with just trunks on, and that was it. You know, our brothers and sisters driving us. They didn't have driver's licenses because you have to drive on the farm. Everybody's needed to help out when you grow up in a farming community. Now, I realize this is different for big cities, but it's really not. As long as you have people who care about you, don't want to watch you die and stuff. And I did crazy stuff like drinking out of garden hoses. And I lived. I ran barefoot. I got stung by bees. I never, ever wore a helmet when I was riding a bike. Never. Not one time. I never wore pads. You know what I did have? Bloody knees, scraped hands, a couple of rocks that got dug out of my forehead when I hit, which could explain why I am the way I am now. But I mean, seriously, I survived all of this. I survived it. And all my brothers and sisters survived it, except for that one. That was sad. No, just kidding. Seriously, everybody lived. Everybody survived this, and we're okay. We're all okay people. We live productive lives, and things are good. So I mean, this padded life mentality where the cops, I mean, and never in a million years would a cop have come up behind my dad in his pickup and give him a ticket or cussed him out for having kids in the back of the pickup. You know why? Because he's the parent and that's his responsibility. It's not the responsibility of government, of the senators, of representatives, of local officials, mayors, city councils, or cops or police officers to take care of my dad's family or my family. But somewhere along the line, we lost that. We lost cops taking care of real laws, enforcing real issues, and letting parents, family, friends, and everybody else deal with the rest of the things that go on in their lives. Because you know what? We're adults and we should be able to handle it. And if we can't, that's when you step in. But you step in on a case-by-case basis. You do not step in to everybody's families everywhere, all across the United States or wherever you live. Pardon me. Got to get my A&W mug here and take a swig. That's what happens when I talk so much. I have to drink a lot. My wife can attest to that. Water, not anything else. But seriously, that's where I feel, just like Dega suggested, is that's where the problem lies. Cops are being asked to enforce things that should have never been laws in the first place. And if we want to have more respect for them and to have them have a higher respect for us, maybe we should just all act like adults, treat each other like adults, and the people who cannot be trusted to act like adults, then we deal with them on an individual basis. Pardon me. But this whole idea of babysit, nanny state from cradle to grave, that's not what America was founded on. America was founded on rugged individualism, freedom, and the ability to make life what you want it to be. Well, you can't do that when you've got people standing on top of you telling you what you can and cannot do from sun up till sundown every day of your life. And like I said, I want this to be a positive thing. I want this to be a positive. What do we do to fix these problems? Now, I doubt very seriously that Brian, the speaker for the Dead's channel, is going to be the go-to source for the government. And much as less the pity, or, more is the pity for that. That they aren't coming to the grassroots, that they aren't coming to the people across this country who are law-abiding citizens asking for their input. No, they're listening to these lunatics who are going into cities and burning businesses down, destroying lives, threatening to murder people for defending their homes. That couple in St. Louis who tried to defend themselves and their home, which they had put a lot of time and effort into. It was not a particularly good area of St. Louis, but they stayed there. They renovated this house. The McCluskeys, I think is their name. And they stayed there, and they didn't pull up stakes and move out of St. Louis. They stayed there and tried to better their community. And when a mob of angry people broke through their private gate onto their private property and threatened their lives, threatened their home, threatened their dog, to just kill their dog for no apparent reason whatsoever. And as someone who owns a dog and as an animal lover, no, you're not touching my dog. You're not touching anything on my private property. That's the point of private property. Well, now we've got the DA of St. Louis who went and confiscated those people's guns while they weren't home. Got some idiotic judge somewhere to go sign off on an order, and they went and confiscated those people's guns. The thing I thought was funny was all the contacts that the McCluskeys got after the fact, offering to replace their guns for free. Say, we'll get you new guns. We'll help you get lawful, legal firearms. You can get brand new guns. We'll replace exactly what they took. And I was just like, God bless America. It's moments like that when people stand up, when neighbors and friends and people across this country stand up and go, no, those people were not in the wrong. They were on their private property. There was no trespassing signs everywhere. These people who broke in and threatened them had no right to be there. Why isn't the district attorney charging those people? They've got them on camera. They've got a lot of those people, but these people are so brave and are so willing to stand up for their beliefs that they wear bandanas and they wear masks and they wear stuff so that people can't identify them. And they're the ones that the law should protect. See, that's what it's going to take for all of me and you as citizens across the United States to stand up and go, no more. Not one step further, not one more time. We're not putting up with this. And we don't have to show up with guns. We don't have to show up with violence and violent intent. But we need to show up in mass numbers to say, this is not okay. I want to tell you a little story. This is not an anecdote from me. This is something that actually happened in the state where I live. For those of you who don't know, I live in Idaho. So Antifa and BLM, Black Lives Matter. See, BLM out here in the West means Bureau of Land Management. So we were all a little confused when this first started with the whole Black Lives Matter thing. Because we were just like, why is the BLM coming after us? We don't understand. I thought they just took care of the forest ground and the deserts and stuff. Anyway, that's a Western thing for most of you don't know. But they decided, well, Idaho hadn't had people causing problems because Idahoans had better things to do with their time. And so they were going to bus these people in. They were busing them in from Portland and Seattle and the loony left coast. And the Idahoans got wind of what they were planning to do. And this happened in two different places. You can go find the news stories. It happened in Boise and it happened in Coeur d'Alene. Well, the locals found out this was going on, and they all showed up with their AR-15s and handguns because Idaho's an open carry state. Thank goodness. And peacefully, didn't do anything wrong, didn't threaten anybody, didn't point guns at anybody, that they stood there and waited for those people to come rolling in their buses because they were being paid and shipped in from outside. The people that were on these Antifa buses and BLM buses showed up to riot and saw who was waiting for them, that the citizens of Idaho had turned out to say, no, you're not doing that here. That is not happening. They turned their buses around and immediately left the state in quite a bit of a hurry. And that's what it's going to take. Good people standing up saying, no, not here, not ever. You do not have the right to come into our communities and burn our businesses and terrorize our people. We will not tolerate it. And I remember getting on Facebook because one of my buddies had posted that on Facebook. And I remember getting on there and just going, thank God I live in. And I do not mean that as a swear. I do not like it when people use the name of God in vain. But I was just so ecstatic. It was so amazing to see the people of my state stand up and go, hell no, we're not putting up with this. And that's what it takes. And no shots had to be fired. Nobody had to get hurt. But they knew that the people were serious and they weren't going to put up with this. The police need us to help them maintain order. They need us to elect good people into office who are going to, one, take out these crappy laws that do not need to be laws. They need us to come in and say, we're not going to allow this to happen in our state, and we've got your back. Officers, when you are doing your job, upholding the law, and you are protecting us, we are behind you 100%. 100%. We are not here to take your money or to defund you or to try and get you fired. And yet, I think we need to hold police to a higher standard. Just like Adega said earlier, we need to recruit the best, pay them what they're worth, so that the best people are being drawn in to into that profession. It's the same thing with teachers. We need to make sure our teachers are being paid and that we only allow the best people to come in and be teachers, because that's how you solve this. That's how you fix these problems. You don't fix these problems by broad sweeping insane measures, because once the police are gone, who enforces the law? The very mobs who got rid of the police, and they're not going to enforce law because they don't care about law. It's just like gun laws. They're pointless because the only people who are going to obey a gun law are legal, lawful, law-abiding citizens. They're going to obey the laws. It's the criminals that aren't going to obey the laws. It's never been legal to commit murder. It's never been legal to go in and shoot up a school. It's never been legal to do any of those things. And yet people still do them. Murder's been outlawed in this country from its inception. And yet people still get killed. And they get killed with more than just guns. So laws like that are only going to hurt law-abiding citizens. And by the way, it's illegal because the Constitution allows for no prohibition of the ownership of guns. Because we, just like what happened in Idaho, have the right to stand together as a well-regulated militia and stop crime when we see it. You remember the old term, citizen's arrest? When was the last time you heard that term? Citizen's arrest, where you as a citizen observe someone breaking the law and call it in and make sure that you are there to give an account of what has happened, and even if you have to stop it yourself. But see, now you'd be sued. You'd be thrown into jail for trying to stop somebody for committing a crime, and they'd end up owning your life. Because our legal system is so messed up that nobody's focusing on the problems. They're not fixing these issues. The inmates have control of the asylum, and we have nobody to blame but ourselves, because we voted these people into office. We voted these busybodies who think that they know better how to run our lives than we do into office. Nobody else did that. You and I did that. Okay, maybe not you and I, but it's one of the reasons I don't consider myself a Democrat and I'm not a Republican anymore, because George Washington said it best: the two-party system will be the undoing of our country, because it pits people against each other. It makes people go against their better judgment just because I'm going to choose the lesser of two evils and I'm a Republican. So I'm always just going to put that R next to my name. Or I want free stuff. I'm always going to vote for a Democrat, or whatever whatever the rationale is. That's what people think that they need to do. And it is just so sad that that's where we are, is that all of and then our own founders, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, their monuments are being torn down. So everybody's complaining, saying slave owners are the worst people in the world, without understanding the context of how and why those people had slaves. Most of them didn't want slaves, but they couldn't get rid of them under the British rule. And then once we were free for ourselves, in order to keep the Union together, it was a necessary evil, and they tried to phase it out over time. I mean, and I don't have time to go into the whole history of how slavery was and came into being and how we tried to get rid of it, and all the abolitionists, because, they're tearing down their statues too. Abolitionists, people were against slavery, tried to get it banned for their entire lives. They're tearing down their statues. This is just mindless mobbery that's happening right now. I don't know if mobbery is even a word. These are just mindless mobs. Let's put it like that. That sounds better. That are being listened to. The only thing that should happen with a mob is to have it disbanded and then not allow them to come back together again. That's it. Now, a peaceful gathering of people who get together to try and get the attention of people in power to pay attention and to stop these things, absolutely. I support that 100%. Peaceful protests where it's not screaming everybody down. It's a group of people trying to listen to everybody else. I'm all for that 100%. I don't know anybody who isn't. That's a basic freedom that we have here. Another freedom outlined in the Constitution, the right of assembly. We just need to start relearning our history, relearning why we have laws, why we make laws, and get rid of the bad ones, keep the good ones, and get the best people to enforce them and to uphold them through the judicial system and all up along the line. Now, I know this is going to sound pessimistic, but in my mind, it's already too late. We let this go on too long. We have let them lie to our children, propagandize our kids for decades now. And we're seeing the results in the streets of our cities right now. This is why we are where we are, is because we've been asleep at the wheel for far too long. We let the inmates have control, and the rest of us were so busy just trying to keep our lives together, just trying to provide for our families, to do what we could. We weren't paying attention when they were lying to our kids, when they were teaching them that American history is evil, that America was an evil, oppressive nation. America is the best country that has ever existed in the history of this world. Do we have our flaws? Have we made our mistakes? Absolutely, 100%. That's why when you teach history, you teach it pure. You teach the good, you teach the bad, you teach why it happened, how it happened, and make sure it never happens again. That's why you don't tear down statues of General Lee. Not because he was a wonderful guy. He was a Christian gentleman who was trying to defend his home and the people around that he had grew up with and loved. He didn't have a great belief in the Confederacy, but he believed in the people and his neighbors. Overall, he was a decent man. He was asked to lead the Union armies by Abraham Lincoln. Do you think Abraham Lincoln would have asked him to do that if he were a lost cause, a horrible human being? Absolutely not. But goodness gracious, don't let historical fact get in the way of your crazy desires to tear down a statue to make you feel like you did something today. And oh, I'm such a hero and I'm fighting the power. You're fighting the wrong power, you idiot. Stop fighting against good things. Learn your history. Put some knowledge in your brain before you go out and start doing stupid things. They don't even teach that anymore. They don't teach kids how to think in school. They teach them what to think. Now, I know that seems like this is a bit off topic, but it's not, because they all tie together. Good countries are created of good citizens who are taught, who are educated, who are learned, and understand right from wrong, truth from fiction. It all starts and stems from us. And you break it right down, and it comes from the family. The family is the basic building block of any society. And look at what they're going after right now. Desperately trying to tear the family down in any way they possibly can. Trying to, a family's whatever it is. If you say it's, that's what it is. No, it isn't. Family is a mother and father and children. That's a family. And grandpas and grandmas and extended down the line. That's a family. That is a family. That is the only definition of a family. All these other groups are just imitations. Now, there are different kinds of families because some people don't have choices. Because there's been a divorce, there's been an issue, or a death in the family, or a husband or father that was lost. No, Lee. I'm talking about Lee. Go look it up. It's fascinating. General Lee was asked by Abraham Lincoln to be the general of the Union armies. When he said no, that's when Abraham Lincoln asked Grant to become the general. But yeah, he asked Lee first, and Lee turned him down because the Confederacy had already asked him, and he was from Georgia, or he was from one of the southern states. But yeah, it's fascinating that most people don't realize that and like I said, they're tearing down statues of General Lee instead of looking at him and seeing him as a tragic historical figure. Sorry, I didn't mean to be like. I didn't always know. I found that fascinating that Lee was asked first because he was such an amazing general. But yeah, it ended up being Grant because Lee said he couldn't because the Confederacy had already asked him. But it's just an amazing thing that. Okay, good, because you are way smarter than me. Anybody who doesn't know, Adega Outlaw is an amazing author. He's a retired doctor. He's a fantastic guy, and I consider him a friend. He is a good man. And so it's wow, something I didn't learn in school. Yeah, I don't think I learned that in school. I can't remember where I found that out. But it was but I was blown away. I'm like, seriously? And but yeah, it's and we need to look at him as a tragic figure who, because of the love of his state and his home and his neighbors, he made a really bad choice. And, and he fought on the wrong side and lost. And thank goodness he did. But when you look at statues of General Lee, why can't we look at him and go, there's a guy who made a mistake. He was on the wrong side. And we should remember that every time we see that statue, that he was a good Christian gentleman who made some terrible choices in his life. I hope someday that's what people will say about me when they look at me and they come to see my tombstone. Yeah, he was a good man. He didn't do everything right. He made mistakes, but I was glad to know him. He was a good man. I mean, what more can anybody want said of them? And, when the time came, he surrendered with grace, and it's just, I mean, history is such a fascinating thing. And the fact that our kids are not learning, I love history, love learning about that kind of stuff. It's just amazing. It's one of the reasons I used to love listening to Paul Harvey. I don't know if you guys remember listening to Paul Harvey, but when you do the rest of the story and you'd get to hear some bit about a historical figure that you had no idea about, love that stuff. It's fantastic. Any chance to learn something new is such an opportunity. But To kind of close this out and to kind of, we're coming up on an hour here to kind of end this for today. Just be out there, be a positive voice, look for the ways to help police officers be their better selves. I wish I would have known how to handle that better this week when that officer was so ignorant to me over something so trivial. And that's the problem, is that you can't. So many rights have been taken from the citizens and placed at the Adega's just saying he can't type tonight. Yeah, I have that problem almost every night. And I was a terrible speller. I'm the worst speller in the world. If it wasn't for spell check, nobody'd know what I was saying when I was typing stuff in anywhere. It's the only reason I probably got through English when I was in college is I had spell check to be like, no, stupid. That is not how you spell slightly. You just said shitly. That's not how you do that. Yeah. And that actually did happen. That was in high school, actually. One of my buddies, he started laughing in the middle class and got in trouble for it because I was taking notes and I spelled slightly shitly. So yeah, he just busted a gut and then the teacher got mad at him. So, but anyway, I know it's corny to say this, but be the change you want. I wished I'd had I was in a bad mood because it had been a hard day at work, and I wished I'd had a joke or something to hand to make that officer laugh, to let him know that, hey, I get it. You're just doing your job. You're being asked to keep these stupid laws that I bet you don't agree with either, and just help that guy to laugh and both have help both of us to walk away having had a better exam or having had a better experience. And maybe that's what we need to do, is to just help our cops learn how to laugh, help them realize that we all don't get up in the morning thinking, how can I break the law today? Yesterday I did some coke, and then the day before that I was I drank and drove 70 miles an hour backwards down the freeway. And, how can I top it? Because I think a lot of cops get cynical after dealing with so many people in the public that's how they look at us. That they just look at us as, this is one more moron I've got to, and we need to help them get through the day too. We need to help them understand that we're on your side. That, you know what, I was angry at you for the seatbelt thing and for wasting my time and for putting an item on my CSA, my truck driving score that I do not need. But I still support you as a police officer, as an officer of the law. And that's what we need to do, is let them know how much we care about them and their families and that we've got their back. If I ever saw a cop being wrestled to the ground by a suspect, I would stop my vehicle. I would get out and I would run to that officer's help. Because that's what we should be doing, because that's what we'd want them to do for us. Maybe we should start returning the favor, and maybe they won't be quite so cynical. So let's reform ourselves and then start reforming the police and help them get out from under some of the burdensome stupidity that they're asked to enforce every day of their lives just to keep their jobs, because they don't deserve that hassle either. I hope you've enjoyed tonight. I had fun. This is kind of a dry, heavy subject. I saw somebody jumped in for about 3 seconds and then left. And I'm like, well, so I would like to thank Xenocide and Adega Outlaw for sticking with me through this whole thing. I hope it's been interesting. I hope that you guys have enjoyed it. Next week, my topic is going to be on the anime Cowboy Bebop. Because Netflix is going to be redoing it or carrying on the story through a series. And so I'm going to rewatch Cowboy. There's about 26 episodes in the entire thing. I just barely started to watch Cowboy Bebop and here a few weeks ago and just instantly fell in love with it. I'm a huge anime fan anyway. But so I kind of want to talk about that, and then what's going to be happening with the Netflix show and the casting choices that they made and what you guys think of that, or if you have any opinion on Cowboy Bebop. If you have not seen it, I urge you, go watch it. It is definitely worth it. If you like anime at all, you will love Cowboy Bebop. I can't remember what service it was. I think it might have been Hulu that I was watching it on. But yeah, if you don't have Hulu, I'd get it just to watch Cowboy Bebop. If you go on and look up Cowboy Bebop, it'll tell you which services it's currently on. I was lucky and found the English version of it. I think you can find it on like Crunchyroll and some of the other like best dubbed anime. My kids like that one for finding English dubbed animes. And then if we run out of time, I'm also going to cover another anime, or if we cover Cowboy Bebop and still have time, I'm going to switch to another anime called Darker Than Black, which is one of the first animes that really caught my interest and got me into anime. And I love it. It's absolutely fantastic, just very quick. And I turned to anime because Hollywood had gotten so stale. They won't do anything different. They're just stuck. And that's why they're now turning to anime and manga and all these things for new ideas, because they are creatively bankrupt in a lot of ways. They don't want to branch out. They don't want to try anything new. And there are so many good animes and mangas out there that they're finally starting to realize that. The problem is they want to Americanize them. And that's where the problem comes in. And I hope they don't do that too much with this new adaptation of Cowboy Bebop, because it's going to be a live action with real actors kind of a thing. Let me know if you're interested in that. If you're interested in anime, leave a comment. And if you're interested in having a say in what the next topic is going to be for the next Sunday, or, whatever Sunday we're on, leave it in the chat, leave it in the comments. Let me know what you think. And because I want you guys to have input into what happens on my show. I want to get Adega on here and talk about his books and just books in general, literature, what inspires people. I've got a whole series of things that I'm planning and that I'm really excited about. I hope you're excited, and I hope you'll help me get the word out and tell people what I'm doing here. And I hope it's worth it. The more interaction, I think the more it's worth it, because we have more people throwing ideas and thoughts into things. And I'm just excited. It's going to be fun. So I hope you're ready for that next week. Go out there, get yourself prepared. Thank you for being here tonight. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday, and we will talk to you next time. Thanks for being here.